Welcome back to Desta's Home Living. So today I want us to make this simple black forest cake from the beginning to its ends. It's simple and with very basic ingredients. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and thank you so much to all my fans and subscribers. So let's get into its preparations. Here we have the ingredients for the cake. So this is 1 cup of sugar. I have grinded it. This is a 1/4 cup of dark cocoa powder. We also have 5 eggs, a 1/4 cup of oil, this vegetable oil, a 1/4 cup of milk. This is a cup and a 1/4 of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon vanilla essence, and you also need 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of baking soda. So let's get straight into preparation. We're going to sieve together the flour, the cocoa powder, and our raising agents, that is the baking soda and the baking powder. So make sure that you mix that well. Everything is well combined. Keep that aside, and now we start beating together our wet ingredients. So we start with the eggs, and when they start becoming frothy, that's when now you add in your sugar bit by bit and continue beating. As you may notice, the color changes to whitish or creamish, and at this point now we're going to add in our milk. There goes in the vanilla essence, and continue beating. So that's enough, and now we start adding in our flour mixture, and fold in all the flour into the egg mixture. So we're finally adding in our oil and combine that well. Then I noticed there are still some lumps that then I needed to beat, to use the mixer to beat well and make sure that everything is well combined. This is how the consistency of the mixture should be, and now it's ready for baking. So I've already lined my baking tin with parchment paper at the base and some oil at the sides. I'm using a 9-inch square pan, but if you have a smaller one, if you have a smaller pan, then you can use that. So as it bakes, we're going to make our cherry syrup using a cup of water, a 1/3 cup of sugar, and some chopped cherries. These are the cherries I used. They are pre-packed. I bought 200 grams at some 200 shillings. So we let this boil, and after it has boiled, you reduce the heat and let it simmer on low heat up until it thickens and looks something close to this. So it's ready. I'm going to keep this aside and let it cool before use. Now we're going to divide our cake into layers, and the reason as to why I was saying that you need a smaller pan is because when the bigger the pan, then the thinner the cake. So mine came out really thin, but at least I managed to divide it into 3 layers. So this is how I divided it, and later trimmed its edges so that I end up with leveled layers. So this is how it looks like after trimming the 4 edges, so that it makes it easy during the decoration. Now next you're going to whip our cream. This is the whipping cream that I'm using, and make sure that it is well chilled before use. So we're going to use 1.5 cups of the cream until you get some soft peaks. Then we now add in some icing sugar. So at this point I added in some icing sugar. This is 1 cup of icing sugar, and continued beating. So if you like, at this point you may also add in any flavor of your choice, like vanilla, essence, chocolate, or any other. Now our whipping cream is ready. The cream is well whipped and firm enough, and we don't want to overbeat it. So I'm going to keep this aside and now start the decorating part. I'm using a square cake board and applying some whipping cream just at the base to make sure that our cake is stable, doesn't slide off as you decorate. I'm placing the first layer and adding some cherry syrup on top. It still has some pieces and chunks of cherries, and I'm applying some cream on top, and now placing the second layer. So I'm going to repeat the process up until I finish with the third layer. On the second layer, I decided to top it up with some chopped cherries, just like that, and placing the last and third layer. I had to rejoin this bit because I wanted my cake to remain in shape. Now I'm placing on a very thin coat of the cream so that to settle the cake crumbs, and going to refrigerate it for 30 minutes in the fridge. So 30 minutes later, here it is. It's well set and ready for the last finishing coat. So for the last coat, you really have to be generous with the cream so that your cake has a decent finishing, and you need to coat it well so that the ground surface of the cake is not seen from outside. So here is my cake. I'm done with the last coating, and keeping this aside, and I now want to create something with part of the decoration with a melted chocolate. So I've taken a parchment paper and sellotaped it on the surface of the table, and I'm making some patterns on it, and repeating the same pattern again and again, so that we make kind of a thick, I don't know whether to call it fence or something, so that we put it at the surrounding of our cake. So the length of the parchment paper needs to be equal to the circumference of your cake, so that when you come around your cake, then it's enough. So when you're done, then you leave it for about 5 to 7 minutes as you watch, and wait for the chocolate to set. And be careful that you don't lift it too early, because it's going to pour and mess up everything. And again, be careful that you don't let it overstay, because it's going to harden, and while placing it on the cake, then it's going to break. So you really need to be careful. And mine seems to be ready at this point, and I'm going to place it like this at the sides of my cake carefully, and leave it for about 3 to 5 minutes to continue setting. So after the 5 minutes, now I'm back, removing the parchment paper very carefully, so that you don't break your fence, because it's quite easy to break it, especially at the end of the parchment paper, like that point. So this is how it looks like. It looks amazing, and it's as simple as this. So now I'm going to put up some decorations using a piping bag, using the star nozzle like that, surrounding the top of my cake. And these ones come out well when you're using a piping bag and the right nozzle. So next I'm going to use the same nozzle to put again some decorations at the base of my cake on the outside, just like that. Whichever way you like it, then you can do it. And this is how my cake looks at this point. So next I'm going to top some cherries on the top decorations, placing one on each, should I call them flowers? Like that. And my cake has started becoming beautiful and more beautiful. So one more last thing, the writings. I'm trying to create a pad to write on, and I'm using some melted chocolate. Spread it on a parchment paper that is stuck on my table surface like this, and leave it for a few minutes to set and become a bit hard. So after about 5 minutes, then you can see from the surface it has set, and I'm cutting the edges so that I get a nice pad to write on. So here is our pad. It's ready and looking nice. So I'm going to place it right direct on the plain part of our cake. And I'm going to use the lower part, the part that was on the parchment paper. And this is how it looks after writing. I used white melted chocolate with a very narrow nozzle to write on. Sorry, I had paused my camera for a moment, and when I was back I forgot to press the record button. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much as always for watching my videos and supporting my channel. Thank you so much. I'm humbled, I'm grateful. See you in my next video. Bye.